This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 155. Tonight I'm joined by Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Hi.
And Tam.
Hello.
It took
I'm really not used to being first.
It took every fiber of my being not to say Ashgar, because he's also someone who's almost never gone from the podcast. But yeah, we're down in Ash, we're down in Thalen. Ash is being cross-country traveler. So is he going to have to deal with the decision of where to cross the mountains that you had to deal with?
No, because Ash is a much better planner than I am, so he doesn't have to worry about, snow, whereas I did. The conversation the comment that Kodra has made on multiple occasions that I agree with. I distinctly remember a point 18 months ago or so, sitting down in midwinter and having Kodra pause thoughtfully and then go, Tam, I'm really glad we didn't drive across the country together. And I'm pretty sure I agree.
Yeah, but anyway, we're down a couple people because reasons. So we've talked a bit about this in the past, and we're probably going to talk a lot more in the future. But I know Tam has been digging into Horizon Zero Dawn this week, and Grace has beat it, and I am not progressed as far as Tam is currently, and Kodra is behind me.
But we've all played it.
Yeah, we've all played it quite a bit.
So we can talk a bit about spoilers.
Some minor spoilers for the beginning bits, yes.
Okay, so thoughts.
This boy, does this feel like a game for Grace. I understand why you love this so much.
Yes, I mean, there's almost nothing about the game that I do not love. And yeah, I mean, Aloy is amazing.
Aloy is fantastic.
I loved the moment when the mother was all mother speaks to you after the door is identifying you and saying, hey, you don't match what's in our registry, and Aloy's it's a door. This is what you guys think all mother is?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yep.
Oh no.
You poor deluded people.
Yeah, Aloy's unceasing snark towards literally everyone is amazing.
It's so good.
It's super good, and it's kind of okay. So I've played a whole bunch of it, and yes, I'm a guy playing a video game and complaining about male representation, how trite, but man, this game is hostile towards every single male character. The highest, I was commenting before the show, the apex of achievement, the highest possible way you can rate a male character is lovably incompetent.
I'm kind of okay with this. I have zero problems with this as a person who's played tons of games that didn't even have any women in them.
Yeah. I don't think that it isn't due comeuppance, but
oh, hey, it's noticeable when all the people of your gender in a game are not that great.
I mean, yes. And it's striking how aggressive it is. It is literally every single conceivable detail. Email updates, completely throwaway dialogues, people you pass on the street.
It's interesting because at least I have not seen him be incompetent yet, but the war chief's son seems pretty competent.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I actually really liked him a lot, and like, you get to talk to him at a couple different points during the game, and like, I didn't notice him being lovably incompetent. I just like,
He's just young and inexperienced. Like he didn't really come across as I don't know what I'm doing, but at the same time, like you're a better warrior than he is. You're a better warrior than practically everyone in this game.
I don't know. I was at the he lost me at the I don't know what we're doing, but I'm going with you. Like, no, how about you fuck off? You're only going to get in my way. And surprise, he's the one that tipped off all of the enemies that I had to then fight through. What a shocker.
Yeah, like I feel like I play this game vastly different than you do, probably.
Like, I mean, maybe I don't get into fights.
I do a lot of spear stuff. Like there's never anything that I fight that I don't finish off with a spear because I am not patient enough to get a bow shot.
Oh, well, I also only use spears, but that's because everything is a silent strike.
Yeah, that was my thought too. I use Silent Strike. But
I
like,
finished stuff off with the spear a lot, especially in the early game, like the first half of the game, until I got some of the later weapons that I really liked, like the explosive sling bomb things. Like the blast sling is great.
I mean, like I'll plink things down as they're coming to me, but then I always end up having to like melee the hell out of them to kill them.
oh, I'm to the point where like my upgrade path was very heavily, do I need to shoot more than once? I'm not strong enough.
I mean, taking down a pair of sawtooth with a spear was a thing.
That's kind of impressive, actually. I would never remotely do that thing.
Oh yeah, like I absolutely did like use terrain to my advantage and dodged whenever they were charging at me.
Oh yeah, the upgraded dodge is my first purchase.
I do like
Super
that.
important. No, my way of dealing with sawteeth is charm one, turn on the other one, make a snack.
Yep.
Collect
That's,
loot.
that basically became my way of dealing with every enemy by the time I got to the end of the game. It's like, oh, there's a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna make this one my friend, and then I'm gonna hang out in this tall grass and take a nap.
Yeah. I've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, I'm gonna knock 3 arrows and one shot this thing. Like, oh, you were a Ravager? Like, now you're dead. You get a nice stealth kill bonus for one-shotting a Ravager from tall grass, though.
I don't even think that's something that I've ever done. I didn't get the like knock multiple arrows thing until super late.
Oh man, it's so awesome. Because it's like, oh hey, dude with a heavy weapon who normally doesn't die from a single headshot, like now dies from a single headshot. The dialogue is incredible. Like the delivery of the dialogue is incredible. And not just Aloy, but I ran across a character and I listened to this character speaking and I'm like, is this guy drunk? And the very first thing out of Aloy's mouth is, are you drunk?
Yeah, that's something that this game did multiple times where I would like yell something or say something at the game and the next thing out of Aloy's mouth would be whatever I just yelled. Like, do you hear what you're saying? And then Aloy's like, you listen to yourself? Like, it's been so great.
It's amazing. And like Aloy's barely contained snark at the start of the game just like blossoms into full-on sarcasm always towards the later parts of the game, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I've said a couple of times, like, I know that you don't necessarily like the character of Silence, but I love the interaction between Aloy and Silence. Like,
no, I hate Silence. Like, I hate that character so much, but he's worth listening to because of Aloy's constant responses.
Yeah, like I don't know. I don't quite hate him that much, but I love the interplay between the two of them. Like there's just palpable snark.
Yeah. I wish that she had a friend. Like just anyone, just a friend.
Who?
Aloy.
Aloy?
Like,
but I feel like she does.
I don't feel like she does. I feel like there's people she kills, people she thinks about killing, and people who she pities.
I don't know. I guess I don't feel that way. Like I keep forgetting his name, but the war chief's son, like, he's pretty
Varl.
great. Varl, like, he's great, and I think Aloy gets along with him. And like the dude who makes her first outfit, like that guy.
The guy that she saves.
Yeah.
That guy is at least nice. Like, he's pathetic, but at least he's nice.
Yeah, and so the thing is, like, you play through this game and you get to near the end when, you know, like, oh, shit's going down, and then you get a chance to go back and talk to everyone, right, before everything happens at the end. And so you do get to go back and talk to a lot of these people, and, like, I think that the conversations, I don't know, I feel like Aloy has friends. I mean, Aloy is a kind of a person who isn't that receptive to having friends in the first place, so it doesn't really help things.
Well, she's kind of used to being by herself.
And she's used to being treated like crap by almost literally every other human person that she encountered for the first majority of her life.
So I feel like this is actually like a super good segue into a thing that I was thinking, because I'm comparing this to Persona 5, which I just came off playing, where that main character is in a very similar situation where every human person they deal with treats them like shit for, like, not really any good reason, and it may just be because I'm coming off of that game, but it feels so like that game is about finding friends and a support network in this world that treats you like crap. And I'm so lonely playing Horizon Zero Dawn. It's like nobody here is on my level, and everybody else treats me like crap. Like, makes me sad. It's a super lonely feeling game, and it's a super amazing game. But it's hard not to compare it to a game. It's hard not to compare it to a game that is what I needed to play before playing it. That's basically about the value of having friends.
See, and like, for whatever reason, that part hasn't bothered me, because, like, I kind of take it as, you know, she knows what she's doing and no one else seems to. So since everyone is the absolute worst, she's going to go off and save the day because no one knows what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, I guess I never felt lonely playing it, but we've sort of had a little piece of this conversation. Like, I'm definitely a very introverted person, and so, like, a lot of times it wouldn't occur to me to worry about, like, going and trying to meet people and make friends. Like, I have a job to do. Like, there are bad things happening, and apparently I'm the only person who could do anything about it, so I'm gonna go do that. Like,
Let's get shit done.
Right, like, let's get this done.
Yeah, I think I'm much more sensitive to feeling lonely, and so
like one of the weird things about the somber or lonely aspect of the game is I kind of love the fact that I don't ever have to go to town if I really don't need to. Like, I can live off the land, literally. Everything I need to stay out and keep doing stuff is all out there.
Yeah, I love that, and especially, like, once you've upgraded your bags and things a little bit, like, you almost never have to go back to town.
Yeah, well, and there are enough, like, merchants out and hanging out by rocks for whatever reason. I guess they're lost or something. But there's enough merchants around that if you do get overburdened, you can just unload all your stuff.
I will say, like, their system of what is crafting material and what is sellable is a little frustrating, because, like, it seems like everything has a use.
Everything has a use. Like, I don't think there's anything that you can pick up that... Well, no, okay. So there's a few things that say that they are, like, all you can do with this is vendor it.
Yeah.
So there's, like, a couple of items like that. But the majority of things, if it doesn't say you should sell this to a vendor and nothing else, then it has some use. It might be, like, weird and kind of pointless. Like, you can kill rats, and rats give you tiny meat or something ridiculous. And, like, you can't do very much with that, but there's, like, one dude in Meridian who will trade you some tiny meat and some other stuff for, like, a random lockbox. And it's not like I went through and bought like one of every box, and there's nothing particularly exciting in any of them. But you can gamble with these things if you want to hold on to every piece of tiny meat and every rabbit bone and whatever.
Those rabbit bones have some work to do as far as upgrading my bags. I don't know. I'm not sure how the rabbit bone is upgrading my bag, but that's where it's
I
going.
don't know. Rabbits are known for their carrying capacity.
I spent way too long hunting foxes so I could make the infinite fast travel thing.
Oh yeah, I spend a lot of time
there's an
killing
infinite
raccoons.
fast travel thing?
Yes. I don't know, I cleared out a bandit camp and it was in the resources tab of one of the vendors, and I don't know how soon it shows up, but I saw it and was like, oh, I need all of the things for this right now. Post haste.
What's funny is that before I got that thing, I was pretty much happy just like riding through the world, and then after I got that, I was like, oh, fast travel everywhere.
I got the fast travel thing because constantly losing my mount was frustrating me, and then I went down the upgrade path that let me just call them out from wherever, and I liked it a whole lot more and was like, why the fuck doesn't Zelda do this game? Doesn't do this thing? Because having a call your horse button and having my horse appear is great. Hitting my call my horse button and it being like, sorry, you don't have a horse around is total
Your horse
bullshit.
isn't within listing distance.
Yeah.
No, screw
that's
you.
Total bullshit. And getting the upgrade, like, it was annoying that I had to go get an upgrade for it, but I could get an upgrade that's like, whatever. If you don't have a horse, we'll conjure you up a magic robot horse to ride around on whenever you whistle. I'm like, yes.
So, since we're comparing this to Zelda in many ways, one of the things that, since I played a lot of Zelda, that I'm now finding very frustrating is trying to navigate terrain. Because, like, trying to figure out what you can climb and what you can't climb is really frustrating.
Oh, I have the opposite experience because what you can and cannot climb is really blatant.
Yeah,
There's
it's
really blatant visual.
Does it have yellow paint on it?
Yeah.
No. Then you can't climb it.
It's totally Mirror's Edge.
So I get that. The problem was I had one of the vistas in Vantages in Devil's Thirst was like, you have to find this one narrow path of yellow blobs on one of the many crumbling buildings, because that's the only way you can get up there, and it's not where the signal leads you to. Whereas I really, really enjoyed being able to climb everything in Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, I admit, like, that's probably my favorite aspect of Legend of Zelda is that if I took the time, I could find a route up most places.
I'm torn between, I agree, and I think that's one of the, I mean, minus the fact that I spent hours not actually being able to do that and feeling lied to, like, in general, I think that is a great part of Zelda. But I also felt like, I never felt like I climbed up somewhere and had it be satisfying in the way that climbing up the sort of crafted paths in Horizon feels awesome. Like, I get to the top of that and I feel like legitimately rewarded for getting to the top of the thing with like a story hit and a cool crafted view and so on.
Okay, so I don't feel rewarded by the climbing in this game at all. Like, I feel like because it is so crafted, because it's one of those things where in Zelda it feels like I am figuring out a way around the game. Like, I feel like I'm being clever in Zelda, whereas I feel like, oh, I found the yellow path in this game.
I mean, I was kind of surprised at the climbing in Horizon at first, because it's like, oh, this is really easy. Like, it's super straightforward to climb things. But I actually ended up really loving it because, like, the challenge was sort of finding the base of the path, and then you get to feel super awesome climbing up it without, I don't know, like, the frustration of, oh, oops, I missed this jump a little bit and now I have to start over again, or now I died and like all I want to do is get to the top and get this thing at the top. Like I don't care about the climb. And instead the game lets me feel super awesome while I'm climbing and it looks great, and then I get up to the top and there's something really cool for me waiting there. And I really like I really like, well, almost everything that you have a reason to climb, like there's something really cool, right? Like the tall necks are just really awesome. Like they're just huge and cool looking, and it's fun to ride around on them, and you get something useful out of it, right? It opens up the map. And the vantage thing, like I really like that, because I went up and got my first one and was like, oh, this is weird, and then like went through and got all of them, and it tells a very specific story that is sort of parallel to the main story of the world, but it's a very specific, very personal story, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think I prefer the smaller number of crafted places to climb, where I get rewarded with like cool looking animations and crafted views and like actual legitimate feeling rewards, than being able than the feeling of being able to climb up thousands of random rocks. Like I can climb up thousands of random rocks, but most of them don't feel meaningful in any way. So it's like, okay, I can do this, but I don't actually care. And they don't. It doesn't have a cool animation. It doesn't have a cool mostly doesn't have cool views.
So it's interesting because it's I feel like because it's so much more of a system rather than like I feel like in Horizon Zero Dawn they're all sort of pre-rendered paths with specific animations to get you from place to place, and it's especially noticeable if you do mistime something, then your character sort of like magically teleports forward a couple of steps so that you make that jump, and it looks a little awkward, just to ensure continuity of the animations. Whereas with Zelda, I feel like the animations are pretty smooth because
the animations are smooth, but they're not interesting. It's just you shimmying up a rock for minutes at a time. Like there's no cool jumps, there's no death-defying leaps, there's no like hanging onto a rope versus a ladder versus a rock versus, these graceful hops. It's just like shimmy, 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 shimmy up the wall.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that the animation transitions are super smooth because it doesn't care if you do it, because all it's doing is transitioning into the same shimmy animation.
I did find at least some of the climbs in Zelda to be more interesting because it was more about trying to find resting spots.
Yeah, so that you wouldn't die horribly while doing it.
Yeah, like you.
And swimming's the same way. Like you need to find a route across the river that isn't going to kill you.
Yeah, I mean, I think in Zelda it is mechanically more interesting, but ultimately the mechanics didn't yield, or very rarely yielded, something at the end that felt rewarding, making me often feel like I was negotiating mechanics to as busy work, not to some reward. Whereas I think that the opposite is true in Horizon, where it is much less mechanically difficult or dense. It's mostly just looking around and taking in the sights as you move. It's kind of like an extended sightseeing tour.
And I mean, from the sound of it, because I haven't actually played Zelda, but from other things kind of similar to it, that like the reward is mostly like the rush of, oh hey, I did this thing and it was challenging to do it and I figured it out and got to the top. Whereas Horizon, like getting to the top is easy and you can kind of enjoy yourself on the way there, and the reward is whatever is at the top.
Yeah, whereas what I think is the mechanically challenging part of Horizon is, okay, here's a field of like 12 machines. How are you going to handle this in a way that you don't get jumped on and murdered?
Yeah, and that is what I find interesting in Horizon is like,
yeah, like that's very much what the game is doing. It's like, okay, here's a whole bunch of enemies with overlapping weaknesses and different skill sets, and
any one of them can kill you. How are you going to survive this? And that's really interesting. More so, I think, than almost every, like, in the same way that the climbing is more mechanically deep in Zelda than in Horizon. I think that the puzzling out how to deal with encounters in Horizon is much deeper than Zelda. And I think that that's sort of the focus of the game. Because I've definitely fought things where I'm like, I shouldn't have fought that. That was a terrible idea, but I won somehow.
I'm looking at you, fire beetle things.
Oh man, I can hack those things now. It's the funniest shit ever. I'm thinking of the giant stupid bird.
Storm birds.
I'm running along, and this is a thing that I normally do not care that much about graphics, except when it enables stuff like this. I'm running along a path, and I suddenly see this enormous shadow just zoom past me over me. I'm like, what on earth was that? And I can hear this like weird mechanical sound, but I kind of tune those out because I hear them constantly. And I look up and there's this giant bird, like it's the size of like a plane. This enormous bird.
I love this because when we were talking about this game, I got a message while I was asleep from you that was like, "Oh my gosh, I want to be able to ride a Glinthawk." And then the next message was like, WTF Stormbird.
Yeah, there's like these little birds, and Little Bird is they're still bigger than I am, but they're not like ludicrously huge. This bird is ludicrously huge. I'm looking at it, I think, whatever, I'll shoot it with an arrow. Like, what's it gonna do? Apparently, it gets real mad at that, and it has the biggest health bar I've seen of any creature in the game. And like, I can't run from this thing because it's a giant freaking bird. So I guess I'm committed to fighting this. I finally figure out with some doing how to ground it, like get it to come to the ground so I can actually fight it. And I jump on its back to stab it with the spear, which seems like a great idea, except that it like stops being stunned and takes the sky again with me on its back, which is terrible because I can't fall from the sky. Like it doesn't take a lot of falling for you to die. So it's high enough for me to be in serious problems.
Yes, you didn't find a parachute with your Bluetooth headset.
No. And like I've already got my like fire bow out, so I shoot the little the little fire canister on its back because it's there and I can see it, and I hadn't noticed it before because it was too busy like pecking at me. And then dive off the side into a nearby lake because I don't know what else is going to work. And it totally worked. Like, it even went into a diving animation because if you jump from high enough into a body of water, like, Aloy goes into this graceful dive. So I, like, shoot this bird with a fire arrow and then dive off the side. It's this graceful dive into the lake. And the moment I hit the lake, I see this huge explosion as the fire canister explodes. And then the bird fell into the water and electrocuted me to death. But it was really cool up until...
But it was a working theory.
Yeah, it was a totally functional theory that I used later without the whole me being electrocuted to death thing. Also, be really careful about electrical things and water. It'll give you regrets.
Do we ever discover where in the world we are located?
Yes.
Okay.
And in fact, like, I know about where you are in the questing, and you should start getting some hints real soon.
I know we are in America.
Yes.
Mostly because I see America Interstate signs. I thought the sign was 25 that I saw, so I'm pretty sure that means we're on the south.
It'll be real clear.
They'll make it real clear?
Yeah.
Yeah, they will. And it's pretty neat, but yeah. One thing, so...
okay. Now I think I know where we are.
Yeah.
Are we in Colorado?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, spoiler.
So, like, that actually, that leads me into another really neat thing about this. So, again, comparison to Persona 5. Persona 5 is a game that kept me guessing with its story almost to the end. Like, it was a story that I completely understand why they are so paranoid about spoilers, because I'm that person who figures out the ending of movies in like the first 20 minutes, and keep quiet about it because nobody likes that person. But
that guy's a ghost.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yes, I've learned to shut up and keep that to myself and be quietly amused when I'm right. But it also happens in games. And so like Persona 5 was really, really, really enticing to me because it kept me guessing. Horizon is really enticing to me because I guessed what was going on really early, but the delivery of how it's done is great.
Yeah, I mean, so I feel the same way. Like, I thought I had figured out what the story was doing, and then I was like, oh, are they really gonna do this thing? Like, it seems like they're doing this thing. Like, is that really gonna be a thing? Because that's kind of cool and like ballsy, and it was.
And it totally is. And you're like, oh, wow, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so even after I figured it out, I didn't feel like I was wasting time delving more into that story.
Yeah,
because the delivery is so good.
I 100% agree with this. I felt exactly the same way. Like, I figured out what was going on in the story reasonably early, and then it was like, wait, are they going to do this? Oh shit, they are going to do this. And then like seeing how it plays out and seeing like there are just so many really good true human interactions, or at least human experiences, like seeing the interactions between Aloy and the people who are around her, and seeing these glimpses into how this world ended up this way. Like, all of the people feel like people. Some of them are assholes, and some of them are incompetent, and some of them are really freaking awesome.
Yeah, and that's, I don't normally mind spoilers because there's a lot of times where the spoiler is what gets me interested, and then I spend the rest of it, and then I really enjoy like the delivery of it. And
yeah, that's honestly something for me too. Is the spoilers don't bother me because a lot of times we go down these paths and there's no payoff.
Yeah,
and knowing that there's a payoff at the end of the tunnel makes the journey more enjoyable sometimes.
Yeah. I get to the point where I'm like, huh, it goes there? Okay, I want to see how it gets there.
I think my favorite kind of spoilers are the ones that are, like, I really love Heme Daisy. I did not play Persona 4 until I watched Heme Daisy's Persona 4 thing, which is spoiling this. Yeah.
It is literally spoilers, including direct spoiler quotes from the game. It's presented in this hilarious, amazing way.
It's repackaged.
Yeah. It's repackaged such that I see it and I'm like, okay, I want to play that game. And then I play the game and I realize that the comic is almost identical to the actual game, but the game is still really good. And like, it's really interesting how it gets to how these things play out.
Well, honestly, like, that video is the only reason why I have continued to try and struggle with Persona 4 Golden occasionally, is because, like, the story is interesting. It just has a lot of fiddly stuff that annoys me.
Yeah. I think you'll like Persona 5 a lot more, incidentally. But yeah, and I feel like there are some games where I've played where I figured out where the story is going, and then I feel like I'm just going through the motions to get to the end. Like, all right, I know where this is going. Yep, this is doing the thing I expected. Yep, this person's saying this at this time. Got it. Whereas with Horizon, I've known where it's been going for quite some time, but that hasn't stopped me from being interested in seeing that unfold. And I kind of think that's almost harder to do. Like, it's a lot harder to come up with something that is predictable but still satisfying, rather than something that's got like a twist.
Well, and it's also, I think it's very difficult, and it's very rare in my experience to end up with a situation where you know what's going on, but you don't feel like you are playing the character of some idiot who can't figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And I never felt that way, like, about Aloy. Like, it took
Yes.
her some time to figure out what was happening, and it took her maybe longer than it took me to figure it out, but I never felt like she was being completely obtuse. Like, she
No.
figured stuff out in a reasonable way.
Well, it's like not only does she figure stuff out, but she's pretty quick on the uptake. And it's really cool seeing that she's pretty quick on the uptake, even if that uptake is slower than me as the player.
In defense of like huge plot twists, when they happen and when I don't see them coming, and when they like fundamentally change the way the rest of the game worked, they're really satisfying, but those are really hard to pull off.
Yeah.
Well, like, you can only do the World 2 so many times in a game before you start expecting everything to be a World 2 or a World 3 or a World 4.
I mean,
I don't think of those as those types of plot twists. I'm thinking of Knights of the Old Republic.
yeah, Knights of the Old Republic,
Okay.
BioShock, like...
I just mean, like, the first time I played Link to the Past and they pulled the World of Darkness on me, like, I was not expecting that. I thought, oh, I've almost beat this game. That was a really short game.
What was
Yeah.
was it Xenogears that you played that had something like that in it?
The World 2, or...
No, the big plot twist where you discover something fundamental out about the game, like at the end, that makes you reevaluate.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Xenogears has an amazing one.
And I love those.
Yeah.
But they're hard to pull off.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like they're really hard to pull off. I feel like they're really hard to pull off well. And I feel like letting me figure out the game but still making that satisfied is also really hard to pull off well. And I definitely don't want to diminish either of those because they're both super satisfying, but I really love that kind of satisfying story. And I do think it's possible to do a satisfying story without it being surprise twist.
The surprise twist is that if your writing is good, the story is enjoyable.
Yeah.
And the story that gets told and like the side stuff is also great.
Yeah. Yes. Like, so there are two things in video games that tire me out instantly. Zombies and warring tribes. Like, oh boy, am I tired of those tropes so hard. Horizon does an incredible job of making me not check right out with their, like, warring human tribes stories.
Yeah, it was a kind of a rough, rocky start because the Nora are kind of not great, but yeah, then you get to meet a couple of the other tribes, and they're actually interesting. I particularly like the Asuram.
I haven't met them yet.
The problem with the Nora in general is, like, you have set me up to be a fringe member of the one tribe that I would have the most hard time relating to ever. The people that want to, cloister themselves in a little area and shun anyone that doesn't follow the rules. Like, that just doesn't sit well with me.
I hate the Nora so much. I hate them so much. Like, start to finish. My favorite line is Aloy like, so I was gonna leave anyway, but I guess I'm gonna do it with your blessing? Like, okay, I suppose. Like, you weren't gonna stop me, but I guess it's less trouble if you let me go. Man, do I have a fistful of arrows for those people.
Yeah.
Want to buy dark side option? You were always horrible to me. Here's an arrow to the head.
Oh, you're all past the, like, trials part, right?
Yes.
So that trial was great. Like, the resolution of that was great. They've set up this character so many times as this, like, total dick, and then you deal with him at the end, and it sets it up so, like, perfectly tropily for him to, like, for you and him to bond over fighting off the bad guys and make good, and right as they're starting that arc, he takes an arrow to the face.
Yep.
And it's like, oh wow.
Yeah, I was
You're
about to say.
Totally willing to do that, and
they do a very good job at getting you attached to, those two characters, the daughter of the war chief and the jerk, and like you're sort of invested in them, and you see them like you see the one starting to turn the corner. You've really bonded with the other, and then they kill both of them, and they kill your like lifelong protector and father figure.
Yeah, and it's like, okay.
I had no bonding with the dick that
No.
threw a rock at me. Like there was no starting to bond with him. I just wanted to put an arrow in his head.
Yeah, but there's like, it's one of those things where in most other games, in most other stories, you'd get like the chance to personally give him comeuppance and have him like grovel at your feet or whatever, in admitting that once and for all that you're better than he is.
Right, like the game is setting it up to either have that happen or to set up like, oh, this is going to be your rival for the rest of the game and he's going to be constantly kind of hounding you or something, you know, like one of those
fucking
things.
Gary Oak.
Yeah. but no, it's just like we're going to foreshadow this catharsis and then rob you of it. And I felt like that made that whole, like, okay, you're in a village, something bad happens in the village, lots of people die, is such a worn out trope. And they use it here, but that other piece of it really made that more impactful than it otherwise would have been. Because like I was sitting in the like final cutscene after the race, like, okay, when are the arrows going to start falling? Because that's going to happen. Like, we're going to have arrows and it's going to be tragic, and like we're going to see Rost come in and be a badass, and like all those things did happen. But that additional little touch with the, also we're going to kill these two characters that we're setting up for, that seem like they're being set up for more story, and just drive home like, yeah, people are going to die and it's going to rob you of that catharsis, made the whole, like, the predictable part even more impactful. I thought that was really cool.
And the other thing that I also enjoyed is like the guard who's guarding the barracks or whatever where you sleep the night before the trials, like, is a dick and continues to be a dick, and like you can talk to him. He's like one of the people that you can come back and talk to at the end, and he's still a dick.
Becomes interim war chief, and I'm like really invested in seeing him no longer become the war chief.
Yeah, like he's a giant dick, so I want to go get the real war chief and bring her back because this guy sucks.
Yep.
I also, so I've talked a bit about this. I don't know if it's on the podcast, but I love Morrowind, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, a lot. It was my first Elder Scrolls game, and I loved it, and I was super excited to play Oblivion, and I have just perpetually bounced off Oblivion. Because the story of Morrowind and the story of Oblivion drive you in different directions. Oblivion puts this really big impetus on you right off the bat to go and like do the big main story quest. And Morrowind lets you ease into it. And this game is great. I love this game because when I got out of that village and they're like, you're the seeker now, you need to go find this person and like cleanse the corruption in the robots. And I'm like, you are making all of this nonsense up and I couldn't care one whit about you people. I'm doing what I want to do. Thanks for giving me free reign.
Yeah.
Like, the story does a great job at setting you into a mindset to do what the game excels at, which is be an open world game.
Yeah.
Ride around killing awesome robot dinosaurs.
Run around, kill awesome robot dinosaurs, find collectibles, do various things, learn more about the world. Like, learn more about the world rather than complete missions, because I am going to, quote-unquote, cleanse the corruption because there was some corrupted data in a computer. Like, that's what led you to be convinced that I needed to cleanse corruption. Good job, Grandma.
And yet, you're gonna go out into the world and cleanse the corruption. But in the meantime, you can kill a lot of bunnies and upgrade your bags.
I'm more interested in finding out what's going on in the world and maybe figuring out if I can't get past that stupid door.
Yeah. Like for me, it's I want to find I want to find all of the ruins and all of the vistas that tell me about the world before, because it's my favorite part of post-apoc games is the how did we get here story.
Well, it's funny, like, I generally really bounce hard off of post-apoc games because
Me too.
usually the world is a dump and I don't want to be in it.
Yep.
And the how it got here part is usually pretty similar. I mean, not that this one is like
It's
that
not
much
super
different,
but it's interestingly so.
yes, it's different enough to be interesting, and the world itself is so different because it feels like a world and there are green things in it and there are people in it, and like not everyone is an asshole, and like there are trees, and it's like the world is not a dump. The world has some angry monsters in it, but the world is not a dump.
Yeah. Well, and it was great being like I beelined for Meridian. Like I beelined for the big city because I was like, please, please, please tell me that not everyone in this world lives in shitty tents and mud huts. Because wow, do I not want to play a game of post-apoc tribal? And it's like, no, that's not actually how that works at all. And I'm genuinely pretty impressed at this city. And oh, everyone in the city is like, oh hey, you came from the savage lands. I mean sacred lands. I'm like, oh, you people actually live in civilized things. I'm gonna wear your clothes.
We're not scared of technology.
Yeah, I was like, oh hey, this is actually reasonable. So now my goal is to get sweet clothes that make people in the city not make fun of me.
So I think the big difference with this post-apoc is like traditionally post-apocalyptic games are humans did something that functionally salted the earth and nothing will ever work the same. And this is like society fell and then nature took back over, which is a vastly different feel. And honestly, like one of my favorite mods for Fallout 3 was like this mod that put trees and stuff back into the world and made it look like a relatively normal but extremely overgrown place. And roaming around Horizon feels like that.
Yeah, I mean, the world is gorgeous. I legitimately don't mind running around it because it's so pretty.
It's so gorgeous, and like those first couple times where you're just like sneaking around somewhere and you see like a herd of machines in the mist, and like it's so good. Or like
nighttime is the best.
And when you first leave the Nora lands and go out into what is the rest of the world, like some of the just like the vistas that you see when you're like, oh, I'm leaving this place that looks like this, and now I'm going to, holy cow, this other place.
Yeah.
That looks amazing. I mean, I still like the wooded Nora lands. Like, there's a little spot near where one of the bandit camps was that was like where I always fast traveled back to whenever I needed to farm animals, because it was like this nice little wooded spot and it was near a stream, and like there weren't a lot of machines around, and I could like, it was my quiet happy place when I needed to like farm things to upgrade my stuff. But like the whole world is full of all these different beautiful vistas.
Yeah. I kind of the one thing as far as machines go, I wish I could ride more of them.
Yes.
I feel
yes.
I feel I can ride this horse thing, I can ride this other horse thing, and I can ride the giant awesome buffalo. But they're all like horse things, and there's so many other interesting beasts out there. Like, I want to ride them. I want to ride all of the things.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, because I think the three things you can ride are like the horse thing, the like ram thing, and the like awesome cow thing.
Yeah. I mean, like, admittedly, riding around a giant robot buffalo with huge horns is hilarious and awesome. Like, especially when I run down like bandits and shit on it. That's hilarious.
The time that I realized when you're riding one of those things that you can actually like break rocks with it.
It's amazing.
So good.
But like, I want to ride on one of the super buffalo, or like, I mean, I mentioned that I want to ride a glintawk around because flying around in this game would be so awesome. But I also feel like flying around in games is mostly awesome. But like, there's other stuff. I want to ride a stalker around. That'd be great. I want to like huddle up under its cloaking device and ride around an invisible stalker. That'd be so great. Or like man the turret on a whatever they're called, Ravager. Not the spider things. Definitely not the spider things. Those things are awful. I do kind of wish that it messaged some of its systems a little better. It took me way too long to realize that I had to shoot things with elemental stuff until the little circle filled all the way up before the elemental effect would happen.
Oh, is that how it works?
That's how it works.
Yes.
And
I still haven't figured this shit out, so
once
yeah.
I figured that out, I was like, oh.
So that's why me shooting a fire arrow at a Bellowback's big green goo container didn't do anything.
Right.
Yep,
there
you have to
are
shoot a
some
few.
things, like sometimes there are little canisters that are poking out, notably on the back of some big things. There's like I think they're on the back of sawtooth things, and also on like, I know they're on the big crocodile things, but there's little things that if you can pinpoint shot them with the right element, they'll like explode dramatically and amazingly. But like things that are like, this piece of it is weak to fire, you have to hit it enough times to like trigger the effect.
And the other thing, like, I never actually did this very much, and I probably should have, but there are, like, once you get to some of the bigger enemies, like, they have horrible weapons that will murder you in the face, and you can shoot those weapons off of them and pick them up and murder them in the face with them.
Oh my god, I do this constantly. It's so good.
Like, I killed several Thunderjaws, which are the giant thing on the box, which when I was first playing, I was like, this is a ripoff. There's nothing crazy like this giant thing on the box. And then I ran into a Thunderjaw, and I regretted my life choices. But, like, I killed several of them without ever realizing, like, oh, hey, maybe I should pick up this thing and actually shoot it.
Yeah, I can pick up a heavy weapon and shoot the thing. I mean, when I finally did kill the Stormbird, it's because I shot off its electric gun and shot it with it. I, like, knocked it into the water and then shot it in the water with the electric thing, and it dealt a whole crap load of damage. It was amazing. But yeah, I love that there's a variety of ways to deal with anything, and also Tear Blast arrows are life.
Yes, Tear Blast is life.
I haven't gotten these yet.
Oh my god, they're so good. I mean, mostly the Sharp Shot bow is my favorite thing ever, but that's probably not even a little bit surprising for anyone who's played a video game with me before. Like, big shocker, the sniper bow.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that one yet.
It's super good.
It's at the little town in the valley.
So, actually, like, once you move along, like, most of the vendors will have almost everything on them. Like, as you go forward, it's not like you have to go back to that town, to that specific dude to get a weapon, which made me really happy.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Like, the things on the early vendors are kind of limited, but once you sort of get far enough out into the world where they start offering more stuff, then from that part of the world forward, everything will have all that more stuff. And by the time you get to Meridian, you can pretty much have access to everything in the game.
Yeah. But it's also like, hey, in order to get these, you need to part from this kind of thing. So good luck. Go find it. Go find it and harvest the part that you need to trade in. And sometimes it's a giant pain, but all totally worth it. What was the thing I was thinking of?
I know, I like that there's a couple of quests every once in a while where, like, a quest person will actually want one of those weird parts. And there's one particularly entertaining one where there's, like, this weird buddy comedy of, like...
Oh god, the two guys.
The two guys who started a business, and they kind of hate each other. They really don't get along, and like
Aloy
one
hates both of them.
Yeah, Aloy hates both of them, and like one wants one part, and the other wants another part, and they're like bickering, and Aloy's just like, "Look, here, take these stupid things. I'm getting out of here."
Yes, it's so good. The thing that I was thinking of was So like I like playing the silent sniper type, and that's super satisfying and really fun for me. But I also love that there's a whole slew of, hey, do you want to set up elaborate traps for your enemies and lure them into them? Do you want to like set up like insane deadly traps and then trigger your enemies to go into them? Like, yeah, we've got a thing. You can scare enemies in particular directions into your traps. That's a thing you can do. That's super cool.
I am just not a good trap master because like I will set them up and then I'm like, nope, okay, screw it. I'll just kill it for real.
I used and abused traps like crazy at the beginning, like the tripwires and things. And then I got sticky bombs and I was happy. I didn't need as many traps. Sticky bombs are pretty amazing.
So one complaint that I have with the game is that I feel like its system for switching back and forth between weapons is extremely cumbersome.
It kind of is. I really wish that I could just tap the switch button to go to my last weapon. I think that would solve most of my problems with it.
Because I have a lot of weapons that, like, I am only going to use it with this elemental type of loadout and, this. So if I just set up, like, a favorite,
oh man,
if I had, like 3 favorites or something like that I could flip back and forth between.
I thought that, and then...
Yeah, I ended up using, like, the 4 weapons that I had. I ended up pretty much using almost all of the things that were available to use on them. Like, I agree it was a little fiddly to select a different weapon in combat, but at least it does slow time while you're doing that.
Yeah. It's also like a lot.
If it didn't do that, then I think I would have a much bigger problem with it. But otherwise, like, I didn't actually have that many complaints about that system because it was forgiving and that it, like, I was not getting my ass kicked while I was fiddling around trying to figure out what weapon to use.
Yeah, I was really frustrated with it at first, and then I noticed that what was going on was whenever I opened that menu, time slowed to a crawl, and I was like, oh, okay, this doesn't actually bother me. I mean, to the point where I could see someone's bullet traveling at incredibly slow motion towards me, and when I selected the weapon I wanted and hit dodge, I didn't get hit by the bullet. I was like, oh, that was, okay, cool, like, I actually kind of like that, because it means that I can select the weapon. And I don't really know what hardpoint arrows do, but I use basically every other arrow I have.
I think hardpoints make it easier to tear things off, don't they?
So Tear Blast will actually, like, blast components and things off. I'm pretty sure hardpoint will knock off armor.
Oh, okay. Because then I also have, like, the harvest arrows, which is a different thing. That shoots off components for me to collect.
And, like, here's a fun tip. Those things will work on a corpse, so that you can walk up to a corpse and go and hit it with the harvest arrow, like hit the whatever module you want with the harvest arrow, and it'll pop off and you get the guaranteed harvest.
Oh, that's cool. I have to remember that. I try not to leave corpses around too much because stupid things come and try to eat them, and if I'm still around, eat me.
Yeah, but this thing also works on, like, corpses you find in the wild that you didn't kill.
Yeah. I mean, I tend not to stick around my kills very long because it's scrappers and glint hawks. I really don't want to deal with them, but I may start doing that more often. But yeah, I mean, it's like even though 3 of my 4 tools are bows, I still use all of them. Oh, this game is really, really clever use of the speaker on the PS4 controller.
Yes.
Rarely do I feel like a game uses the PS4 controller speaker in a useful / meaningful way. But using it to let me know when my bow is fully drawn is great. Like, that is a really, really nice touch for especially the bows that are very clear about that. I like that a lot.
So I have never experienced this because I'm not using the default controller, so...
Aw. There's definitely, like... I have definitely had bizarre... There's definitely some bizarre choices games have made as far as what sounds do they play through your controller. I think that Persona 5 does a cute thing where when your cell phone buzzes, the controller buzzes and makes the little cell phone sound. And like that's kind of cute, but not all that meaningful. Whereas I've started to listen to the audio cue from my controller for when I'm lining up bow shots. And that's I find that really cool. Good audio design. I appreciate good audio design.
So yeah, I mean, I think at some point we're still gonna have to have at least one more show where we talk a ton about this game, because like all of the spoiler things that like Tam and I are furiously messaging each other about, and all of the things from the end of the game that I guess I'm the only one so far who's seen, like those are gonna need to be talked about.
Yeah, like there's some really, really cool stuff. The story delivery is really neat.
And there's just like there's definitely these story set pieces scattered throughout the game, and they're interesting to go through. Like the fights and things that are in them feel meaningful for the most part, and like the payoff is really good. And sometimes just, I mean, things like rappelling down the side of a tall neck when you're done. Like
the climb up the tall neck feels really good.
Yeah.
Like I love the rappelling down.
I want to ride one. Pilot one around. It'd be great. I'll stick my spear in there and use it like a joystick.
You can totally ride it. You just can't make it go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean it goes where it wants.
On a looping path usually.
The whole tall neck experience is great. Like
it's the best version of radio towers.
I mean it's that, but it's also like, okay, I have to stalk this thing to figure out where the best point to jump onto it is so that I can make my climb. Like the actual climb up its back is usually not that tricky. Like sometimes it is, but it's usually not that tricky. It's risky, but it's not super tricky. But like
it's the first jump.
Yeah, it's that first jump where you're like, okay, is this a good, like, where's the good place? Let's follow this thing around and avoid all of the other nasties around it, or deal with them or whatever to figure out how I want to jump on this thing.
And that's something I think that I was really happy that this game did, like both with the tall necks, and with the cauldrons. Like you get to your first one of these things and you're like, oh, this is really cool. Like figuring out the tall neck was really cool, and like seeing the first cauldron was really cool. And then you're like, oh, there's like 4 more of these. Like, are they all going to be the same?
Nope.
No, they're not the same.
No, they're often dramatically different. It's like the same idea, but dramatically different.
And that feels really good.
Yeah.
So it feels like we've wound down a little bit on the Horizon talk for now, since we've reached the point where any more would be spoilers, like massive spoilers, especially for Kodra and I that are still playing.
It's kind of true.
So I have been playing a game that nobody else is playing. And that seems to be what's happened a lot lately, is like one of us will be playing a thing, and then maybe sometimes another person will play it, but it's mostly we're all kind of off doing our own thing. And for whatever reason, I have been obsessing about Star Wars The Old Republic. Like, it's a whole sequence of events that has made me feel nostalgia about Star Wars in general, and I decided to go back and catch the class stories that I didn't ever complete, because back in December of 2015, I think that's when Force Awakens released, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure. Or was it 2016?
No, 16 was Rogue One.
Rogue, yeah. So yeah, 2015, like Tam and I and a bunch of other people were playing Star Wars The Old Republic, and because of the crazy 12 times story bonus thing, I decided I'm just going to burn through all of these class stories. And I made it pretty far. Like I got to the point where I was, I think, around level 35 on my Sith Sorcerer, and then I had never touched Agent. And I came back and I finished up the Sorcerer pretty quickly. And then I've been spending the last week doing the Agent storyline.
Agent is a really good storyline to finish.
Like I think it may be the best storyline.
I agree.
Like, having played them all now, I am still a fan of, like, the big damn hero moments of the Jedi Knight.
Yeah.
But Agent is the story of the world. Like I feel like
Imperial Agent is so good that Bell thinks it might be the best story in Tor.
Right, and it is a stealthy class, or I mean, it is in theory I'm an assassin class.
It's
which
weird.
is
Like I'm gonna be the spoiler here. Like I'm probably the only person ever. Like everyone, I think, built up how good the Agent story was, and it just didn't. Like it was interesting.
how far did you get? Did you get all the way through?
It. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the main, level 50 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't go beyond that, or at least not meaningfully.
I think maybe it was like the class was like just like the class fantasy kind of thing was really like not that great for me, but it was still one of the best ones. Just I'm not sure that I would call it my favorite. I enjoyed the Sith Warrior one a lot.
The Sith Warrior one is very good.
Like, for me, a lot of it was I played this character vastly different than I normally play characters, and it was largely me and Cleo pissing everyone off. Because, like, everything I did inadvertently was something that she was down with. So, like, I was talking back to the Imperials because I didn't really want to be in the Imperial service. So I kind of played it as though I was a neutral party that was just being paid to... So, I ended up playing it kind of like I was a bounty hunter.
And it totally lets you.
Yeah, like, and I'm a free agent, and it was a really good story for setting up villains that it absolutely then let you kill. And my God, Hutts are the dumbest things in the world. Because by the end of that story, I had killed 5 Hutts. Yet they kept putting themselves in front of me in the same room with me, thinking they weren't going to die. I was very true to my word. If I told you I was going to kill you, I was going to kill you. I mean, they don't like if in an early dialogue I said I'm going to kill you, I absolutely did kill them when given the chance.
And came back later.
Like, I was a man of my word. It was a super bloodthirsty thing for me because, like, nobody got a second chance. Yet the funny thing is like, my thing with Imperial is I am never fully dark side. Like, I am all about, killing fools, but there's so many of the
across the street.
There are so many dark side choices though that are like, no, you're just horrible. Like, you're going to do horrible things to these Imperial soldiers that are just trying to do a job. Like, no, I'm not.
You're not as like it's mean and spiteful for no reason.
Exactly.
It's not even like getting you anything.
Right. You're just being an ass. Like, I feel like that's the way with like Jedi Knight. Being a dark side Jedi Knight, you're just a douchebag. Like, you're the world's worst person ever. Like, there's no redeeming quality to being a dark side Jedi Knight.
It's like, hey, you've got this disease, and I have a cure that's tailored to you specifically and won't work on anyone else and thus has no value. And all I have to do is hand it to you. It's not even hard, but I'm going to drink it instead and then give you the thing.
Because lols. I mean, like, Darkside Jedi Knight is the 4chan of the Star Wars class stories. But, so I guess part of what I really like about Agent is Jedi Knight feels like this is the canon story. Like, this is the one that's supposed to represent the enduring qualities of the class story. Like, you go take on the Empire, and you take down the Emperor in the result. And it's talked about in other storylines, but Imperial Agent feels like this is the secret story of the world. This is what's really going on behind the scenes. And as you get into the Shadow of Revan content, no, that's absolutely what's happening. Like there is a secret third party that is playing Empire and Republic against each other.
Yeah.
Trying to kill both. Like, that's absolutely what's going on. But I have now beaten all 6, or all 8, and I have my little flare. You made it through all 8, didn't you, Tam?
Yeah, a while back.
Yeah,
I sort of haven't picked up since, and I feel like sometime I might go and see the new content, because the Fallen Empire content was actually really cool.
So, one thing of note is, while they took away the 12 times story bonus, they seem to have just compensated by cranking all other experience sources up. I am probably a third of the way through Shadow of Revan. Just based on where I am story-wise, I would imagine I'm about a third of the way through.
Yeah.
And I've already hit the level cap. The level cap I was supposed to hit during Fallen Empire and Eternal Throne.
Oh, well.
So yeah, like I'm already at level cap. I am now getting end game rewards by doing this early content. Because I guess with Knights of the Eternal, is it Eternal Throne? Whatever the new expansion is, the latest expansion, they put in this galactic command system where it's like an alternate leveling system, but it's mostly just a make numbers go higher type system. And it is an alternate path to get loot boxes. Like, I'm not sure what else it does, but it basically is a loot box system. So as you kill things out in the world and as you complete, flashpoints and that sort of stuff, you get levels. Or you get command points, and then those give you command levels, and every command level you get a loot box of seemingly random stuff, including, like, purple 230 level gear, which is, I think, raid tier 1 of, like, it's like whatever the tier 1 gear is that you can get from the raids that are available now. So I've gotten a couple pieces that way. You also get a heap and helping of random orange mod gear for various sets. And I've got like a pet through it. And the big thing that coming back has been interesting is the changes to the companions. Largely because it seems like whenever you beat the level 50 storyline, you now, your companions don't have reputation the same way they used to. And the little story blurbs that you get over their heads unlock progressively at the same time. So what I was noticing is, like, if I finished Voss, I'd come back to my ship and everyone wanted to talk to me. So, like, that had unlocked the next step for everyone.
Yeah, as opposed to you having to sit around in Nar Shaddaa buying gifts and funneling them like candy into your companion.
But, right, and the thing is like, if you weren't actively running around with somebody, you weren't getting rep. Like, so all of my characters had basically the one person that I ran around with all the time that I had really good rep with, and then maybe a couple others that I cared enough to buy gifts for. But it was interesting, like, I've been going around and logging in characters that I hadn't played in a long time, and going onto the ship and basically chain running through all of the dialogue options for each person. And, like, some of them don't get any better. Like the Haut guy for the Trooper, he's still the world's worst thing ever. And Galt is kind of still the world's worst thing ever. The Devorian, I think, is the race.
That guy's a jerk.
Yeah. But, I don't know, like, for whatever reason, it has hit the spot, and I am enjoying running around and doing the WoW-like with better story thing that SWTOR is. And honestly, like, right now, having not done Shadows of Revan, that's what I did most of today, was running around on Belghast again on my main, and doing that storyline, and it's good. Like, Shadows of Revan is really good. And I'm curious what the whole chapter thing is going to feel like, and I'm wondering if it's going to frustrate me in what it does to companions. Because I've heard that you don't get your companions that you're used to.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know at some point they redid the system and, like, you lose access to a bunch of companions and then it slowly feeds you ones through the story or something. But I don't know whether that is still the way it works or whether it has changed yet again, because that was in some previous expansion.
I will say one thing about the agent story is it really pissed me off that I lost access to Cleo on Corellia. Because, like, that had been the companion that I ran around with all the time.
Man, I did not like that companion.
Oh, Cleo was my bud.
I legit ran around with no companion for a while as the agent rather than running around as Cleo, with Cleo. The actual thing I did.
So I'm taking it you didn't romance Kaleo?
No.
Okay, that option is funny.
It seems like it would be funny.
Well, like it's kind of like romancing Morrigan in Dragon Age.
Also didn't do that.
Don't talk to me about this thing, because boy did I want to do that thing and couldn't.
and fuck you, BioWare, for having specific
Gender-specific romances. Yeah.
I think they've learned. Mostly.
Yeah. Well, they have in SWTOR. They didn't learn in Mass Effect.
They've learned later in SWTOR, and I thought they learned in Mass Effect, or did they not?
Mass Effect Andromeda is still super limited.
Oh.
Well, SWTOR even, it took them a while, and I don't think they ever added anything back in for the original companions.
Not for the original. They added new ones.
Boo.
Yeah, so, like, if you do the Kaleo thing, what ultimately happens is she ends up proposing to you, and not the other way around.
I mean, that seems about...
It's very fitting that character.
Yeah.
It is very fitting that character.
There were a few in Dragon Age Inquisition like that I thought were really cool.
I wish I could get into that game. I don't know why I can't.
I can't get back into it the way I was able to get back into some of the other ones.
So, one of the things that I think is really cool is, did you do any of the story flashpoints that were solo?
Maybe? Yes?
So basically you can do every flashpoint in the game as a solo thing now.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And the only difference is you have your companion, and then it summons a grossly overpowered combat droid.
Oh, right. The giant... Yes, it's you, your companion, and then the actual party, which is the giant robot.
Yeah, no, like, it's silly. But it's fun in that, like, it lets you go through the story, which was one of the cool things about Tor's dungeons, where, you know, it had a good story.
It is an accurate simulation of you being hyper carried by somebody else in your party.
Yeah, like, this is the level 70 and a level 20 dungeon. Like, that. And it's super noticeable, too, because, like, I was running around with Kira, and I flipped her to a healer, because, you know, I'm a tank. And she'd heal me for, like, 2,000 hit points. And, like, the droid would heal me for 20,000 hit points.
And then kill the thing itself while tanking it.
Yeah. Well, there was one boss in one of the dungeons that I had to shut my companion off. Because what would happen is, like, there's a point where, like one of the mobs teleports up to a pillar, and damned if she wouldn't follow it, and then it would get stuck, and then reset the encounter. I did, like, this 3 times before I Googled it. And they're like, no, just summon the robot and kill your companion, and you'll be fine. But what's interesting is, like, when gear drops in these places, it's level appropriate for you, not unless it's mod gear. But, like, I was getting stuff that was, you know, level 70 gear from doing these level 50-ish dungeons. I mean, they've done right or wrong, they've done a remarkable job of taking an MMO and turning it into a single player game, and still making it an interesting experience.
I'm really hoping that with the resurgence of Star Wars being, like, a property with actually good core media again, that we start to see stuff like KOTOR, like modern KOTOR again, like cool stories told in video game form in the Star Wars universe. Because it's been a while since we've had that, and I really miss having that.
Well, the thing with SWTOR is it's made me realize how much I love that setting.
Star Wars,
like that era of Star Wars.
I'm really hoping that we can get an era of Star Wars that's kind of like that era post the original trilogy, like in the
Edge of Empire type setting,
or I don't know about Edge of Empire, because I don't actually know what you mean by Edge of Empire setting.
It was I don't know. I thought the Edge of Empire book happened just shortly after the original trilogy.
Maybe. No, I mean like post the current trilogy that we're in the middle of, which doesn't the new one come out at the end of this year? Very excited.
Yep.
Yes.
Man, okay, so this is me losing control of my shit the other day when I was watching Guardians of the Galaxy. But when I saw the trailer for The Last Jedi, come up on the big screen, I like it had to like overwhelming emotions about that. I had this overwhelming like kind of happy and cry at the same time.
I need more Ray with a lightsaber is really what I need in my life.
I need more Ray.
Yeah.
I need more Finn. Like, I just, yes, need more.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sad that, we won't have movies with Diego Luna in them anymore, so we can hear about, Yaba and his desire to pet and touch Yaba.
What?
Have you not heard this?
I don't think I have.
Diego Luna has a hang-up about Jabba the Hutt. Like, every time he's in an interview, he brings up how much he just wants to touch Jabba.
Wow. Okay.
Like, there's like a supercut out on YouTube that's something like, find someone in your life that looks at you like Diego Luna looks at Jabba. And it's like all these interviews clipped together of him making comments about how he just wants to touch and feel and Jabba.
I mean, whatever, man. You do you.
Yeah.
Get into whatever he wants.
Yeah, it's great. So,
I really
listeners, if you've never seen this, go look it up because it's amazing.
I'm really looking forward to seeing Darkside Ray, and I really want the will they or won't they Poe Finn romance to blossom. Those are my hopes for the remainder of the trilogy.
I am really hoping that it gives us the payoff of Grey Jedis or whatever the hell you're going to call them.
I think that'd be really cool.
I mean, because like maybe this is too simple a read of the Last Jedi trailer, but they're talking about how like the light side and the dark side, and then the balance and how much more of it exists than the light side and the dark side is how I read into that little dialogue. And I am ready for Druid Jedi, true neutrals.
Into it.
Because like Jolie Bindo was like one of my favorite characters. Okay, Grace, tell us about your recent travels in a game you didn't expect to be playing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that big of a surprise that there was a reasonable sized patch for WoW, and I went back to poke around at it.
Side note, I'm logged in monkeying around in WoW right now myself, so
I mean, they added a bunch of stuff, and their content is always pretty solid, and like, it was okay. I basically, I logged in for a little while when the patch first happened, and one of the things that was added is the ability to unlock flying for the Legion content, right? So, that was my mission. I was gonna, force myself through whatever hoops I had to jump through, which is mainly just getting reputation up with one faction. Explore this new piece of the map and then gain rep. And I kind of trudged through it and was kind of grumpy and not really enjoying myself. And then I unlocked flying, and I simultaneously decided that I no longer cared at all about my main and gearing and rating, and I just kind of wanted to play the game and screw around and see stuff, and actually been kind of great. I switched over to the Horde side because I like playing Horde, and I have all the Horde alts, and in the span of a couple weeks I've leveled up my Paladin, my Druid, and my Warlock all from 100 to 110, and got them basically moderately geared, high enough to run all of the LFR, and caught up on their class hall stuff and the new class companion stuff that came out with this patch, and basically got them as caught up as I could to try to get the one of the things that is coming is that each class will have a class specific mount, and some of them are pretty sweet looking. So that's sort of what I've been up to, but it took realizing that oh, I don't have to give a fuck about this game, and I can just do the pieces that I want to. And it's been something that I've been encountering more with my dealings with WoW and with some other games too. Just like I have the sort of like the collector gotta catch 'em all compulsion thing, and sometimes it gets really frustrating, especially something like WoW that I've played for a long time and there's lots of things to do. Suddenly it just feels overwhelming. And like for instance, I used to collect the battle pets and I had quite a few of them, and I had a bunch of the trading card game pets, and I had like just all of these things. And at some point they put in a bunch in content that I just really didn't want to do, and it was incredibly freeing to no longer have to worry about getting all the damn pets. And so that's what this sort of felt like. It was the same exact kind of experience, like, oh, I don't have to care about doing all these things, and I'm going to do the pieces that I want. I want to see what all these class stories look like and get all the cool weapons, like, and find out who the new companions are and what their stories are. So that's what I've been doing, and it felt pretty great.
I feel like I've gone through this cycle so many times with World of Warcraft. Is like at the tail end of an expansion, I will reach this moment of zen, and it's like, I don't have to give a shit anymore. I'm just going to piddle, and I'm going to enjoy myself. And I have this renaissance of WoW. And then an expansion launches, and I'm like, I guess I'm going to try raiding again. And then that leads to me eventually burning out at some point. And like the point at which I actually burn out is variable each time. Like I think I lasted longer than normal this expansion.
Yeah, I definitely lasted longer than normal this expansion. But that's the interesting thing to me is that like we're still mid-expansion. Like there's definitely at least one major content patch, if not more, still on the horizon. Like there's a raid that's associated with this one that I guess is going to come out in the 0.5, or I don't know what, like the next.
I don't even know what patch this is. Is this 7.2?
I think this is 7.2 or 7.25. I don't know. But there is a raid. Like the thing that WoW is doing now that really confuses and actually annoys me is that they release these really big patches, but then within the patch they kind of dole out the content for that patch in slower doses. So like for instance, the Halls of Valor, whatever raid, was technically part of the first patch, right? But they didn't actually release it until several weeks after the main chunk of the patch came out. Like, it's a strange system. It feels kind of kludgy and weird. And so the same thing is happening here, right? Like this patch, I think the Tomb of Sargeras is technically part of this patch, but it still isn't released yet.
Well, and Nighthold is the current raid, and it took forever to launch after it was technically patched in, like at 7.1.
So, like, it's just, I don't know. It's a strange system. I wish they would just give it a patch number or something. It just feels very weird to be like, oh, this patch includes this raid. It's like, well, that's nice, but I can't play it yet, so it doesn't feel like it's included with this patch. Like, if it came out a week later or something, maybe, but like, we're several weeks deep and it's still not, I
mean, I have this feeling that like they are very much trying to find what works right now. Because obviously the 3 patches and done of the last couple of expansions, and in some cases 2 patches and done, didn't work. So now they're trying other things, like they're patching way more frequently, and it's just confusing.
I mean, I think it is working better, but it's really confusing, and like, mostly it's just confusing why they didn't just give it another patch number or something to differentiate it, because it like I said, it feels very strange to be talking about some of these patches and like, oh, this is the biggest patch ever, has the most content or whatever. It's the thing that they've been billing about this patch. It's like, well, that's great, but it's not all it's not all actually available yet, so it doesn't quite feel that way as a player. Like, I get that they're pacing some of the story quest things out, but some of those are not that exciting. Like, they're pacing out one per week, these quests that are part of the thing that unlocks your class mount. And like, there was one week where the quest was turn a bunch of nether shards into Khadgar, and like, the end. Like, most people by that point already had those laying around, so it wasn't even like you had to go out and farm them. It's just like, turn a quest into Khadgar.
That feels shitty.
Yeah. So like, and like, I didn't care that much because I have enough other stuff that I'm doing that I like wasn't like completely holding my breath waiting for something interesting to do that week. But that piece of that quest line feels like it's sort of just being artificially drawn out because they can and they want to drag it out.
Well, and part of the whole billing of this being the biggest patch is because they put in a bunch of like single day events. And do you know what I don't really care about? Single day events.
Yeah, I'm torn on them. Like, I don't think I've seen any of the new ones. Like, I don't think I've seen any of them. And I don't know whether to be happy or sad about this. Like, on the one hand, like, I feel like if it doesn't have something cool associated with it, like a pet or an achievement or whatever, then I don't care about it.
Yeah, that's the problem, is like, these don't have a thing associated with them.
But then the flip side is, like, if it's going to be that short, right? Like, if it's only going to be a single 1 or 2 day event, then, like, it feels really awful when there's something cool associated with that and you miss it, right? Like, because, oh, it happened on Tuesday and I happened to have to work late that day, whatever. Like, that feels real crappy. And so, like, I have really mixed feelings about this. Like, on the one hand, I feel like I would be more excited about them if they had something cool as a reward. But on the other hand, I'm kind of glad that they don't have super cool rewards because they're so limited. I don't want to feel like, oh god, I have to do this stupid 1 day event on all of my characters. And, like, ugh. So I guess maybe it's okay the way it is. And then I can just not care about it.
I don't know, like, disposable content in MMOs always feels like a waste of time. Like, I would have rather that they created content that's going to be there for everyone from this point on.
I think that's another part of the peace that I've made with WoW, which is, like, accepting that they're going to change stupid shit and that I can't go back and that I just have to move on. Like, a lot of times it still makes me angry, some of the things that they changed or took out, whatever. And now that I'm, like, not as obsessed about collecting all the things and doing everything and getting all the best gear, like, I can just let it go a little bit easier. It's still incredibly frustrating to have content that's just removed, like the old legendary quest chains and things like that. Like, there's actual story that they just took out. But at this point, like, I'll see how much stuff I can see during this expansion. If I don't finish everything, oh well.
I think the thing that allowed me to make my peace with that like completionist urge in me, because it's been a while since I really like pursued being a completionist in any game. Unless I was just really interested in it, but like, I always felt bad about it. I think the point at which I stopped feeling bad was FF14's animal weapons, where I was like, that's cool, but I don't want to do it. I don't have to, so I'm not gonna. And you described it being a really freeing feeling, and I remember going back to other games being like, oh, I don't want to do that, so I'm not gonna. This is great. I'm gonna do the things I want.
Man, if only I could stay there. Like, I reached this point in lots of games, and then new content is released, and I go back into, oh my god, do all the things mode.
Yep.
I never get back there. Yeah. Every so often I will find a game, and it's rare, but I will find a game where I'm like, no, I want to do everything in this game. Not because I want to complete it all, but because if there's more of this game for me to play, I want to play it.
That was pretty much what happened with me with Horizon. It's like
Yeah.
my completionist tendencies were part of it, but a lot of it was just like I am going to suck every drop of everything I can out of this game because I do not want to stop being in this world.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I was with FF15. It's absolutely how I have been with the last two Persona games, where I'm like, I want to see everything this game has to offer. Because every time I find something new, like even if it was a huge pain to get at, every time I find something new, it's really cool.
Well, I was that way with, Mass Effect Andromeda.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, 90 hours for a single playthrough. And that was me going and doing all the things other than tasks. I mean, I said something to this effect earlier, but this has really been the year where, like, we've all latched onto a game super hard, but it's all been different games.
It's true.
At some point later this year, there will be convergence.
There will.
Well, I think, like, there will be a lot of these games that we all catch up and play. We just had a different priority order in which we wanted to get through them.
Yeah. I figure I have my Persona 5 New Game Plus that I want. I haven't jumped right back into, but I almost did, and I'm gonna sit on that until somebody else is playing it. But I'm really looking forward to it.
So I played a little bit of Prey this week, but not a whole hell of a lot to really talk about it. I did want to mention that it already looks super interesting, but it's basically a sci-fi game where you expect everything to be a mimic. That's an interesting skill to start developing, because there seems to be a general rule that I'm seeing is there are these aliens that can basically disguise themselves as any object. So what you want to be aware of is anytime you see more than one of the same object in a room. So, like, I cannot count the number of things I have bashed with a wrench just because it might be a mimic.
Sounds like my Dark Souls playthroughs.
Like 2 papers on the desk? Screw that. I'm gonna bash them both. 2 boxes on the floor? Nope. Bash. 2 chairs at a bar? Nope. Bash them all. But yeah, so, like, I haven't really made it very far, but it very much feels like this is going to be a Dishonored-y, Bioshock-y type experience, and, like, that's what I was hoping it would be. Because whatever you call those things, and honestly, like, to some extent, this game's of the month is that same kind of thing, where it's like a deeply story-driven shooter.
Yeah, I mean, you've sort of got like the Bioshock, the Dishonored, the Wolfenstein, the new Wolfenstein, the Prey.
Yeah,
like they're all in this. They're kind of the first person equivalent of Uncharted.
Yeah.
Deus Ex is another one. I don't know what you call it. I don't know that we have a good word for them, but they're some of my favorite games a lot of the time. I haven't sort of attached to Prey just because there's been so much else I want to play. But...
Right. Well, I was playing, like, I booted up Bioshock the other day because, like, I was wanting that style of a game, and I was wanting it to be in a, not necessarily sci-fi, but, like, modern to sci-fi genre. Like, I don't know, I wasn't feeling fantasy, so I was kind of hoping that this would bridge that gap. Well, it's already creepy as shit, so I don't know, like... There's not really been jump scare moments, but it's definitely got a whole survival horror type vibe to it also.
Yeah.
Creepy shit's going on. Okay, Kodra, you have been playing more Magic the Gathering Online.
I have. It's a lot of fun. So there are leagues now which allow you to draft a deck and then walk away and, like, play your games as you want. So you don't have to, like, commit to this potentially 4-hour game if you want to play if you want to draft, which is really cool.
That seems like a great addition.
Yes. And they've got a bunch of, like, new formats. Like, I'm currently drafting a deck for a essentially arena style, so you get if you see how many wins you can get before you get 4 losses, and then you earn rewards based on how many wins you got. which is really nice.
So how's the new expansion feeling?
Oh, it feels like some powerful magic here. Like, really powerful magic cards that I get to play with.
Because what's currently in type?
Currently the draft is currently Amonkhet.
Okay.
But, like, I am trying, I just went, Exert is a really interesting mechanic where you can basically, I think I mentioned this before, when you attack, if you exert it, it doesn't untap during your next untap step, but it gets a bonus. So, like, if you have a 2-1, you can make it attack as a 3-3. So, but that's sort of the thing that's going on, is, like, there's Embalm, which allows you to bring cards back from the dead, and -1/-1 counters are permanent. There's a lot of cards that permanently impact the board state in multiple ways, which is really powerful. And cycling's back, so you can put big creatures in your deck that you can play, and they're powerful late, or you could, if you get them early, you cycle them away.
I've not really ever played much Magic Online. Like, I signed up for an account, and then I never really did much with it.
It's a lot of fun.
Like, how expensive is it? That's honestly, like, the big question usually.
So I have an interesting perspective on this one, because from my perspective, it's not so bad, because the cards that when you purchase cards and you draft them, you can sell those cards to buyers and get currency to play more games. And if you draft and do well, you can keep drafting. If you want to if you're, like, invested in holding on to your cards and don't want to just draft a whole bunch, it's just as expensive as paper Magic.
Yeah.
But unlike paper Magic, there's there's an actual marketplace for all of this stuff that's well balanced. So it's not like, I mean, in paper Magic, when you're selling your cards to the store, they're making a pretty tidy profit. When you're selling your paper Magic cards to the digital retailers, they are not doing that thing. Like, the difference between the top buy price and the bottom sell price is not that wide.
I mean, there's been a couple times I've contemplated doing more Magic Online just to do some popper.
That's certainly a thing you could be doing.
I did play some Hearthstone this week, and I guess they rolled out a new expansion, and I guess it had been so long since I logged in, I got caught in some weird little thing in the entry to where, like, I had to play 3 matches against champions or something, and it wouldn't let me go to a menu otherwise, so I'm not sure what was going on there. But I mean, one of the things with Hearthstone that I kind of dig is that no matter what, like, if you buy packs, you are eventually moving towards the deck that you want to build. In that, like, you can craft cards, so, you know, even if you don't get the thing you want, you can disenchant it and then take that dust and turn it into the cards you want. I mean, it's a fairly lossy method of doing it, but, like, you're eventually going towards whatever end goal you have. I mean, like, I have enough legendaries, for example, that if there was a deck that I was burning to build, I could disenchant a few of the legendaries and build it.
Yeah, I eventually did that to get a decent competitive zoo deck. I don't know.
There's things that there's things I don't like about Hearthstone. There's things that I do like. I wish Magic Online were more Hearthstone-y, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like Hearthstone nailed the client and the feel of acquiring cards. There's just mechanics that I don't like.
Have you tried Hex?
I have tried Hex, and I've played some Hex.
Do you find that UI better?
I don't like Hex is a much less slick Hearthstone UI.
Well, so no. Compared to Magic Online,
like Hex is a way better interface than Magic Online.
Because that's sort of my thing. Is like, I agree that they need to figure out how to make their game feel more Hex-like. The problem is that Magic Online is doing some complicated mechanical interactions.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for them to really streamline the UI.
Well, I guess like right now the Magic Online UI just feels dated, like really dated.
Yeah, I can see that. It is. It absolutely feels that.
But I give them props because like I am constantly getting surveys about what I thought of this month or what I thought of that month in Magic Online, even though I'm not playing. It's like it feels like they really care about the community. I just wish they put some effort into sprucing up the client.
Yeah, I could see that.
Do we have any other topics that we want to discuss? Like we kind of burnt through the ones we already had set aside.
I don't think so.
It made me your comment about Hearthstone. Maybe you remember that we played a bunch of Heroes of the Storm.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that was fun.
Yeah, like I kind of would like to do that before the reset on Tuesday, because like there's another set of stuff you can get this week. You can get Police Diva.
Oh, Diva's out?
Yeah, Police Diva.
I'm suddenly excited about playing a whole bunch more.
Yeah,
Just throwing that out there.
I don't know if Diva, the Hearthstone or the Heroes champion, is out, but I think she is.
Oh, okay.
But like you get the police officer Diva skin for Overwatch.
Oh, that's less exciting to me because I already have my favorite Diva skin.
I like my carbon fiber Diva skin.
Yeah. I also played the co-op PvE Overwatch event.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome. It was frustratingly awesome.
But see, this gets back to the whole
an event.
Yeah, because it was an event.
This gets back to what I was saying, is like, it really pisses me off when people create disposable content for their game. Like, this should just be a mode.
Yeah.
Junkenstein's Revenge was also really fun.
Like,
Take those ideas and build a PvE Overwatch mode, and it's always there.
You know the best parts of Borderlands 2? Where you're going through a thing and shooting a whole bunch of dudes and getting story hits between kind of the eye in the sky voices chatting with you, and then also the characters having lines to each other.
Yeah.
That's what that was. It was like, here is an Overwatch. Here's a Overwatch mission from classic days of when the Overwatch team was, doing Overwatch things. Here's a whole bunch of commentary. I got to listen. You get to listen to like Mercy snarking off at everyone else, and it's like, it's funny. It's fun. It gives you all of this insight into various characters and their relationships with one another. It was like, what? Where is this? I thought I wanted to play Overwatch the MMO, but no, I would play this. This was awesome. Like, I'm genuinely frustrated that there isn't more of that content in Overwatch, because it's great.
What infuriated me is, like, I saw the trailer for this and I'm like, okay, yeah, this looks really amazing, until I read the words that this is a limited time event. And then I didn't play it at all. Like, why set myself up for the disappointment of liking this game mode when God knows when we'll ever see it again?
Yeah. And I feel like I'm glad that I hopped in and played it, because it reminded me of all of the things that I really like about Overwatch and the potential that the game has. But it was super frustrating to be like, oh, this was so neat. Now it's gone. But it was super fun. It was like fun and cute and clever, and I'm gratified to know that they can make that game into a game that's really fun and that I would want to play with my friends beyond the occasional like PvP match. But I want them to make that game now. Now that I know that they can, I want them to.
Right.
Because they have the story mode version limited you to it locked you to the characters that participate in the story mode. But once you've beaten the story mode, you can play the same mission with all champions. And like you could have open pick, and you have like, it's less. They changed the way the story mode is delivered so that it's not quite as like character personalized, but it's still quite a bit of chatter and it's still pretty fun. But there's also like, it's really interesting because the characters they give you are very well suited to handle the mission, but you can come up with these interesting combinations of other champions to go through the level as. And it was super neat. I want more of it.
Well, hopefully, like, I feel like that the consolation prize would be if they kept a PvE mode like that in rotation at all times. Like, just, because now they've got two. They've got, Uprising or whatever it was called, and they've got Junkenstein's Revenge, both of which were really fun. And if they just cycled in a bunch more so that one was always available in the arcade or whatever they call their game type selector. But anyway, okay. Well, hopefully everyone enjoys the show. And as always, if you have commentary, God, I don't know. Like, I feel like we're bad at presenting a unified front for doing commentary.
Look, we're bad at presenting a unified front. Period. That's okay.
You can tweet at AggroChat.
Yeah, and most of us watch it, and then it ends up going to our
feed.
Our feed. So yeah, that's probably honestly the best way to communicate with us is at AggroChat on Twitter.
I am starting to stream. I am streaming the game of the month this month. I had a fun stream with Toadchild last night, going through the first 4 levels of Wolfenstein: A New Order. So I'll probably be tweeting out when I do that, trying to give like about 15 to 30 minutes notice. So if you want to, join me at twitch.tv/Kodra22.
And speaking of Twitch, just a quick announcement because I was not even paying attention to this. So first of all, if you have Amazon Prime, you also have Twitch Prime, and you should totally do that thing. Because they give away game stuff. And when I first looked at this, it was games that I did not care about. Like, even right now, there's a promotion for NBA 2017 or something like that, and I don't care. But, like, for right now, and apparently, I don't know how long this is running, but they are giving away a mount in Star Wars The Old Republic. That's a ATST-looking giant robot walker mount. So, if you are a Amazon Prime subscriber and you have Twitch Prime, you should totally log in periodically to check the rewards. Because sometimes it's interesting stuff. Anyway. Hopefully you enjoy the show, and we will see you next week. Good night!
Good night!
Good night.
Good night.